Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for our UI Virtual Town Hall, Wednesday, March 3rd. I appreciate your participation today. A couple of things before we get started. For those of you who may have participated in past town halls, if you're joining by phone, you need to press *3 to ask a question. Those participating online, simply just chat in your question. We have a number of volunteers with us today from the Unemployment Insurance Division, prepared to answer your questions that are asked by phone and online. We also received some questions ahead of time through some of our Facebook groups, so we'll be getting to those at some point. And I hope you find this useful and informative. Every town hall that we hold is recorded and shared out externally following the town hall. What we'll be adding to today's follow-up as well is a list of FAQs that have come in recently on some of the topics that we'll be addressing today. So once we go through our presentation, we will pause, we'll get to some of the questions previously submitted, and then we'll go ahead into your questions. So again, thanks for taking time, thanks for participating, and we hope you find this session useful as you navigate your unemployment insurance benefits. So we'll go ahead and get started. Our agenda today, just real quickly, we will be covering the status of federal extended benefits, an update on MyUI Plus, the recently deployed modernized benefit system. We'll touch briefly on the newly deployed UI Daily dashboard site, address fraud, what victims of fraud should be doing to notify the department that their identity was stolen, and touch on ID.me and then go into your questions. So just real quick update on the status of the Continued Assistance Act, known as CAA. This was a phased rollout of the second round of federal extended benefits from Congress. Phase 2 was deployed on February 20th for those who had exhausted or expired pandemic unemployment assistance and pandemic emergency unemployment compensation claims. Phase 2 also allowed new PUA claims to be filed. As you all probably are well aware, these programs are nearing expiration on March 13th. As of today, Congress has not yet fully acted to pass new legislation to extend these federal benefits. However, Governor Polis and CDLE Executive Director have recently called on Colorado's delegation to act quickly and take action so that we don't have a gap in these benefits. Next slide. So what's in store remains to be seen, but this newest round of stimulus benefits known as the American Rescue Plan. Within the stimulus package are a number of provisions that address extending the federal extended benefit programs. So briefly, these would do a couple of things. These proposals would extend benefits to August 29th. The plan also includes a phased out approach as the economy recovers. It increases the FPUC benefit, known as Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, from $300 a week to $400 a week. For PUA recipients, it increases the number of weeks from 50 to 74. For PEUC benefits, it increases the weeks available from 24 to 48. Again, keep in mind that this legislation has not yet passed through congressional approvals, and it still would need to be signed into law by the president. As was the case with the CARES Act benefits and the Continued Assistance Act benefits, CDLE cannot begin programming these benefits into our systems until the U.S. Department of Labor provides rules and regulations and guidance to every state labor department on administering of these benefits. Certainly, as we know more, we will be communicating this out to impacted claimants, we hope in the coming days and weeks ahead. So let's just move into a quick update on where we are with the MyUI Plus system. Again, this was deployed in January of this year. It provides a number of benefits from the legacy system, which, by the way, was over 30 years old. It lacked flexibility for new benefit programs. that are really that those flexibilities are required during recessions when labor departments are required to program on top of regular unemployment a variety of additional benefits available to workers. The department was poised to deploy the system in April. Unfortunately, the impact of the pandemic required us to pivot this project to stand up the PUA benefit system. PUA claimants have actually been in the system since April of last year. And had we stayed in the old system, programming of federal benefits would have taken 2 to 3 times longer, if at all possible, in the old system. So MyUI Plus brings about not only will all claims now be in the same system, it provides greater access to claim details for the claimants, and it does include also some additional fraud prevention measures that were in the PUA system now are applied to all unemployment insurance claims. So within MyUI Plus, as is the case with any large-scale technology project, of course, there are issues that are identified, and we've been working closely with the vendor as those issues are identified to deploy fixes on a daily basis. Our focus has been on those widespread issues that seem to impact the greatest number of claimants. So I wanted to touch on a few of those here, and then I'll turn it over to one of our volunteers to speak about some other fixes that are in progress here. Some valid PUA and PUC claims could not be reopened or requested because of invalid zero available balance notice. This has been fixed. Again, we are very thankful for the claimant community's feedback to us and the feedback through other stakeholder avenues to elevate to the department issues as they're being encountered so that we can quickly move those forward to our vendor for a resolution. Another issue that was identified was claims not receiving payment for a particular week. This was the week 12/27/20 to 1/2/21. That was also fixed. We did see this from a number of claimants that a previous overpayment that had been forgiven was suddenly reappearing. This is actually a fix deployed nightly, so it may appear more than once. Our guidance is be sure to check your MyUI Plus account the next day within 24 hours, as likely the fix has been put into place overnight. Additionally, some back weeks were showing a zero available balance. That is when, again, some of these keep in mind as they come up, the fix is applied to that certain population of claims. So a good rule of thumb is to check back with your MyUI Plus account the next day, as it's very likely that a status has changed. And all of these fixes are outlined in our newly launched UI Daily dashboard. But before we get to the dashboard, I'd like to bring on Daniel to highlight some of the other fixes that we've identified and are in progress. Daniel?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a couple of the wider spread issues that we're still seeing impact claimants and talk about how you might notice that they're impacting your claim and what we're doing to fix them. So the first one you'll see on our daily dashboard listed under the yellow side. Both of them are under yellow. So available balance becomes $0 once a program integrity hold or other issue is cleared. So once you clear through ID Me or something else, your balance, instead of issuing out money, drops to $0 and actually doesn't pay out. That one and a few other of the defects that we're seeing present on the claimant side is caused by one thing. And so we're hoping we found that root cause. We're working on a fix now. We're actually hoping to deploy that this week if we can, but no set deadline on when we're going to make that happen. This also includes those that are still in the zero available balance weeks, where their weeks are still showing up as zero available balance after we've deployed several fixes to that. Those folks are now part of this one, so we're working to clear that through as quickly as we can, and again, hoping for a fix this week on that one. The other one that we're seeing pop up more now and what we expect to increase over the next couple weeks is going to be with regards to the double dip determination. That's causing some of your weeks after your new claim was filed. It was deemed ineligible by our double dip determination. So you went back onto your PUA or PUC claims, but still your weeks are getting denied as you're requesting benefits. That fix also is we're planning in the next couple of weeks to go in to fix that all together for all claimants so that they can get those weeks that were denied and continue requesting moving forward. So those are the two biggest ones that we're seeing impact folks. I just want to make sure people know we are working very quickly to resolve those and plan to have them resolved but prior to the American Rescue Plan getting enacted. So thanks.
Thanks, Daniel. That's very helpful. Let's go ahead and talk about the UI Daily Dashboard. This is, as I mentioned, a way for us to share externally with the claimant community and others basically the status of UI operations, what we're seeing with MyUI Plus issues and plans for deploying fixes. On the dashboard, we also have a page dedicated, a How Do I page. This is essentially tips and tricks for navigating your claim, in interacting with MyUI Plus, some commonly encountered issues that come up. There's also a section for Continued Assistance Act, which of course we will modify with the passage of the next stimulus package and provide claimants with updates on reprogramming timelines, implementation status, and estimates. We also have a page dedicated to helping claimants with their reemployment goals and their work search activities, and there's some video content that's out on that page as well. And then finally, very soon, we'll be adding an FAQ page, and this is really valuable because, again, when we receive an issue in from the claimant community, we assume it's being encountered not just by one, but likely, several, if not sometimes hundreds of claimants. And so the goal here is to provide a dedicated resource for FAQs based on what our claimants are sharing with us that they're seeing through some of the social media channels and through other feedback avenues. So the site is linked at coloradoui.gov. Welcome any feedback through the social media groups. Again, this is a living, breathing site that we update daily and hope that you find it useful and our goal to provide greater information and support our goal to help claimants navigate the system. So I wanted to touch quickly on fraud. It's been broadly covered in some outlets that Colorado, like every single other state, our UI system has been targeted by criminals who have stolen identities in the past and are now using those stolen identities to commit fraud and filing fraudulent claims. It's an important thing to note here that there was no security breach to the CDLE system, but rather victims have had their identity stolen at some point in the past, and the criminals are purchasing these, some of them for just a few dollars on the dark web, and then using them to file false claims. So our goal has been, since we started identifying this as an issue early last year, is to implement identifiers in the system that will allow us to detect and prevent the fraud before it results in a fraudulent claim payout. We recently started a process such that new claims would receive a communication from the department notifying the individual that a UI claim has been filed on their behalf. For many, this is the first indicator that your identity has been stolen. The most important thing for victims of identity theft resulting in fraud, the most important thing to do is report that to us at coloradoui.gov on our fraud page. Recently, within the last week, we also created a separate form for employers. So absolutely encourage employers to report in any correspondence from us where there was not a job separation and is clearly a fraudulent activity, report that through the employer-specific form. Once that form is completed, it will allow us to shut down the claim and ensure that no future payments are paid. Just to be clear, because an individual receives a communication from the department or an employer receives a communication, that does not mean that any benefits were paid out necessarily. It means that there are some automated correspondence and communications within the system that just simply are triggered when a claim is filed. So the most important thing, again, is to go ahead and complete that form. Don't need to call the call center. And again, because this is just such an incredible issue happening through labor departments across the country, we likely will not be able to have a staff member call up. But please rest assured, once that form is completed, then very soon after that claim will be shut down so that benefits are not paid to the criminals. We'll touch briefly on integrity holds and ID me, and then we'll get to some of the questions and then your questions. ID.me is an identification verification solution that we implemented. This was actually a federal requirement that all state programs implemented some sort of ID verification process, and that was really a result of the rampant fraud that had been seen nationally. Some legitimate claims, however, may unfortunately inadvertently be caught up in one of these fraud identification indicators. So that would require an individual to complete the ID.me verification process. You will know if you have an integrity hold by within your MyUI Plus account. Under the Issues section, you will see a notice that says Program Integrity. We will email claimants who have program integrity holds and direct them to complete the ID.me process. If a claimant doesn't receive an email from CDLE, you can also complete the form online at coloradoui.gov. Really important to note here that not all holds will be resolved through ID.me, and we certainly have been hearing from claimants who completed the ID.me process, and yet the hold is still in place. And we'll speak to that in a little bit when we get into the questions that were submitted in. So as I said, not all holds resolved through ID.me. There may be other issues that are holding up payment. The important note here for claimants is to please respond to any fact-finding documents or activity from the department to clear those issues. And again, we know this is a topic we see a lot coming into the department, folks who are unfortunately caught up in a program integrity hold. So I might ask our experts to weigh in on this here in a few minutes. But with that, let's just go ahead. We'll go to our questions that were submitted beforehand through some of our social media channels. Also, just a reminder, if you're joining by phone and you'd like to ask a question, it's *3. So we had a question sent in about what our call center agents can help with and what they cannot help with. So I'm going to ask one of our team members, Jeff, what can call center agents assist claimants with?
Sure, Sharon. So the call center agents that are reached at our number 303-536-5615 can help with anything from navigating the MyUI Plus system to claim-specific questions or issues like inaccurately entering any personal information on your claim. So they can help with areas like that. You do not need to call the call center for any of the following reasons, though. We have different avenues for you to use. So reporting fraud, please report fraud to us at coloradoui.gov. We have a form that individuals reporting fraud can use and a different form for employers that are reporting fraud. And so that's the best avenue there. If you have a program integrity hold on your account, please fill out the program integrity hold form online. To request a copy of your 1099-G tax form, you can do that online as well at coloradoui.gov. And then if there are questions regarding your employer account. So if you are an employer, please call Denver Metro 303-318-9100 or toll free 1-800-480-8299. And our call center can be reached at 303-536-5615 Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. However, the volume of calls into the call center is pretty high right now as anticipated, so some callers may experience longer than average hold times or even a busy signal. So we're continuing to increase our call center staffing and training. And if you're unable to get through to our call center, please do try again. You can also find many answers at coloradoui.gov and on our UI Daily dashboard.
Thanks, Jeff. Since you did touch on a 1099-G, we do receive a lot of questions in about how do I receive a copy of my 1099-G? It's not showing up in MyUI Plus. I need a corrected 1099-G. I'm going to ask Phil if you can weigh in here on, again, just reinforcing how would somebody be able to access their 1099-G, and under what circumstance would somebody need a corrected 1099?
Sure, Sharon. Thank you. So if you did not receive a 1099-G in the mail, or you need an additional hard copy, you can access us online at coloradoui.gov to get one delivered by mail to you. We are currently working to get all 1099-Gs on MyUI Plus as soon as possible, but right now only pandemic unemployment assistance-related 1099s can be accessed on a claimant's MyUI Plus account. If a claimant received pandemic unemployment assistance benefits, as well as regular state benefits, PEUC, or SEB, the 1099-G in their MyUI Plus account will only reflect the PUA benefits. Claimants should also go online at coloradoui.gov to complete the form if they need another copy of the 1099-G that reflects all non-PUA benefits that were paid in 2020. If an individual only received PUA benefits in 2020, they do not need to complete that form and can instead access the 1099-G via MyUI Plus. If an individual believes they're a victim of identity theft fraud and has requested a corrected 1099-G using that same form at coloradoui.gov, those forms take a little more time to create and provide to you because each report of an incorrect 1099-G needs to be manually verified for accuracy. We are currently expanding resources in that area so the team can process these requests as quickly as possible. For any additional questions regarding 1099-Gs, you may always access the website again at coloradoui.gov.
Thanks, Phil. Another question we received in is, what happens when my benefit year expires? Daniel, can you answer this question?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So when you file an unemployment insurance claim with us, that claim is good for 1 year. It's on file for 1 year from the date it's filed. After that year comes up, your claim is considered expired. Once your unemployment insurance claim expires, we will have you file for a new unemployment claim at that time to determine if you're eligible for a new claim. At this point, our system will work through whether or not you're eligible for that new claim. If you are not, if we deem that claim ineligible for whatever reason, at this time we will then move you back to your old claim where you would continue on that using the federal extension programs, which can push out past the expiration date of a claim.
Thanks, Daniel. We're going to take just a few more questions through the social media groups, and then we're going to take some calls and go to the online questions. Let's go to one. So, Phil, are there any additional phases being deployed for the Continued Assistance Act?
Yeah, thank you. No, there are no additional phases being deployed for the CAA benefits. We have captured nearly all claimants eligible for federally extended benefits included in the Continued Assistance Act. We are currently working on future optimizations that will address additional programs of CAA, including the new Mixed Earners Unemployment Compensation Program. That is for individuals who have both regular state employment and work gig employment. And we will also be optimizing for a small subset of claimants who have extremely complex and or out-of-sequence claim situations.
Great. And last question, and we'll move over to live questions. Daniel, can you explain what the slow letdown means?
Yeah, I'd be happy to on that one too. So the CAA, the Continued Assistance Act, did something a little different than the CARES Act did. When the CARES Act was passed, it was set to do a hard cutoff for all claimants. So whether or not you had benefits left in your CARES Act claims, we were not allowed to pay those out after December 26th. That was a hard cutoff. No matter what, we just could not do that after that date. The way the CAA handles that is that if you have benefits left over in your claim after March 13th, that Saturday, which is technically when the programs expire, you can continue collecting for another, I believe it's an additional 3 weeks after that, before we then cut off the benefits. This is, of course, assuming that the American Rescue Plan does not pass. If that were not to pass or not exist, then you could continue collecting those benefits if you have that balance available for an additional 3 weeks after the expiration date.
Great, thank you. Let's go to an online question submitted. We have a question from Stephen, and his question is, looks like he has a couple of questions here. The recommended number of activities is 5 per week, and he means work search activities. I'm doing at least 5 per day. What is the required number of activities? And his second question is CDLE hiring remote phone operators? I'm going to go ahead and see if Jeff wants to take this question.
Yep, I definitely can share. So, and I see he actually has a third question too on, is there a way to enter work search activities into the MyUI Plus system on a daily basis instead of having to do everything all at once on Sunday? So those are all great questions about work search activities. I'm glad to hear that you're making 5 work search activities per week. Our law says that you have to make an active work search, and so throughout the years and through our study, we've always recommended that you make at least 5 so that you keep your work search journey going as you're seeking new work. So while the recommended number is 5, that really depends on your local area and how many different opportunities you have there. Work search activities can range from anywhere from making actual contact with an employer through filing an application, going through and using some of our workforce services, going through updating your resume information, working with job counselors. So we don't set a specific number that you have to reach because we want to encourage you to do as many as possible, as long as you are making an active work search. And so, unfortunately, it's a great idea to have a way to enter those work search activities on a regular basis. Right now, you want to keep track of those on your own so that you have your own work search log, but it does ask you to enter them on a weekly basis as part of the MyUI Plus payment request process. I will take that note down to see if there's any way that we can look at enhancements in the future for that. So that's a great idea, Stephen. So we'll take that forward. And then to your last question about is CDLE hiring remote phone operators, we have been putting out some requests for call center agents. Those come out on a fairly regular basis. So I would check online to see what works, which job opportunities are out there, and if we have any current open requests for new ones. So check back with us on regularly because we do continue to hire in that area. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think let's go ahead and take one by phone here. Why don't we speak to...
We have Rebecca.
Oh, great, thanks.
Rebecca, you're live.
Hi. Thanks for taking my question. Listening to you, it might end up being a little more complex than you can answer here, but I'll ask it anyways. I got a job in early January that I know is going to end in about 2 weeks. And so I've had this difficult time figuring out how should I continue to my claim? Should I let it stop and then restart it in 2 weeks? I'd just like some advice on that.
And
Jeff,
this is Jeff. Since I'm unmuted, so I'll go ahead. Rebecca, so you said you received a job back in January. So have you just kept the claim open? Are you continuing it and reporting earnings?
We may have lost Rebecca. Jeff, can you speak to either scenario?
No problem. Yeah, I'll speak to the broader scenario. So if you do get a new job on a regular basis as you're going through, the system will let you continue to make payment requests, but if you're working full-time 32 or more hours, it's going to automatically deny that week because you are working full-time. So that kind of keeps the claim going, but it doesn't, needless to say, you don't have to do that. If you do get a job, you go back to work, you can let that claim close down, and because it's just a simple reopen process. So if you've gone a couple of weeks and you haven't requested payment, it just puts the claim in an inactive state. And so if you know you're going to become unemployed again in 2 weeks, as soon as you've worked your last day, you can go ahead back into the MyUI Plus system. And then depending on if you're on a computer, you would just look on that left-hand navigation bar. There should be a reopen claim link, or you can get to that if you're using mobile. Using in the upper left-hand corner, there's the 3 little bars that look like a hamburger. You can open that menu up, and you should have a reopen claim link there.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's go to an online question. We have Allie. Her question or situation is she received a demand for an overpayment after she filed a fraudulent report. She destroyed the bank card she received as well. What's next for her? Phil, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, certainly I can take that. And thanks for the question, Allie. What you're discussing isn't uncommon for some individuals. There were some automated processes within MyUI Plus that after parties had reported the fraudulent unemployment insurance claim, we closed down the claim and any type of payments that were being made on it, which created an overpayment. That overpayment, though, should not be being sent to you, Allie. So again, that's an automated process we are now working on closing down. Related to the overpayment, you are not going to owe the overpayment. So anyone that has reported the fraudulent claim where it's been closed and received such a notice would not be required to repay that. So you may ignore that notice at this point in time.
Thanks, Phil. Let's go back to a phone question. Can we bring Jennifer on the line, Andrea? Jennifer, you're live?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So I actually just have like 3 questions. I'm just gonna knock them out. The first one is the people that were affected by the issues that are currently being fixed on the MyUI website that you mentioned in the beginning. Do you need to go back and request payment for those weeks again? And when will those issues go through? And then the other one is I'm a teacher, and because of COVID, I'm like part-time on call, and normally I would be working full-time. But like, how do things like spring break work? Because I don't get paid for spring break because I got cut back to part-time or on call. And like, how does summer break work too? Like, is that still a PUA claim, or is that like an unemployment claim? And do I need to do anything? Do I need to go in there and change anything when that happens? And then also, like, I tried to get a hold of somebody through the call center, and it just tells you that all the slots are full, and it doesn't give you any options. Is there like maybe an email option or anything like that, or just like any kind of like sufficient way of contacting somebody, because the offices are closed, at least in my area for now. And then can you also email us that social media link where we can post questions and things like that?
Thanks for the questions, Jennifer. I am going to ask Phil or Laura to take questions 1 and 2, and then we'll have Jeff answer the 3rd question about the call center. Phil or Laura?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and grab it here. Sure. So Jennifer, again, thank you for your questions. So if you're talking about some of the major issues where either payments haven't been made because those show those 0 balance weeks, or there are some individuals who have not received their FPUC payments, the additional $300, but had received their other payments for those prior weeks, you do not need to do anything. You do not need to go back and recertify those weeks. Those weeks are stored in the system, and once those issues are corrected, payment will go out for those weeks that were stored within the system. If you are a part-time teacher, got moved from full to part-time, what do you file? To be honest, at this point, you would still just be reporting your hours and earnings each week on the claim. I'm assuming by this that your claim is still active at this point in time. If your claim is no longer active, you would need to reopen it, and then you would just note that you could essentially note that that's laid off reduced hours at this point in time. You've also touched on reasonable assurance when you talked about a spring break. That applies to teachers where they have reasonable assurance of returning to a position in the same or similar capacity as they did before the break. That would also depend on the fact that you used to be full-time and now you are part-time. Even if for some reason you were ultimately denied benefits for that reasonable assurance, there have been some recent changes to the PUA program that might allow you to be over on PUA during a period of time where reasonable assurance would not allow you to be paid on your regular state claim. And then other than that, I'll hand it over to Jeff for the call center.
Well, I was just wondering for like spring break, because that's not spring break, excuse me, summer break. Would that be a regular PUA claim, or would that be an unemployment claim?
Yeah, so if your prior base period is based on full-time employment as a teacher, and you are currently working on call or part-time, then you do not have reasonable assurance of returning in the same or similar capacity as what the value of your claim was based upon. If, on the other hand, you were going to return full-time and they were guaranteeing full-time work, then that would allow that reasonable assurance to take place that wouldn't pay you during the summer, but you may qualify for PUA at that point in time. These are some new changes that the Biden administration just rolled out a week ago related to PUA.
So do I need to change that claim from a PUA to a regular unemployment claim?
Yeah, it would have to occur only if your regular state claim was denied benefits, because in order to qualify for a PUA claim, you have to be ineligible to receive regular state benefits.
Okay, I hope that was helpful. We did have a third question there, and then we'll move on to another one. Jeff, do you want to take the call center question?
Yes, I think earlier I talked about if you need to open up a new claim, the best way to do that is through the phone number that I had talked about a little bit earlier today, which was 303-536-5615. They can help with some of the basic information. They can see if you're eligible to file for a PUA claim and the system is set up to do that. It'll put a link on there. If you're unable to do that, they can probably walk you through the process there. Otherwise, I know that it's difficult to get time slots for the callbacks. We try to get those opened up a few weeks in advance if they are available. Otherwise, I would contact our regular line, and our virtual assistant can assist with many different question types that come across. And in the meantime, we are staffing up our call center with the hopes of being able to open up additional availability.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's go to, and we had another question here about state extended benefits, known as SEB. And the question is, how do state extended benefits impact my eligibility for federal benefits? This is when we do have a number of folks who have this question come up on SEB. So either any of our team members want to take this one? Daniel? Phil?
Yeah, I can give Phil a break and take this one. So state extended benefits will not impact your eligibility for PEUC, Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. That's your additional 13 now plus 11, so additional 24 weeks of benefits. And the reason is because PEUC will always come before SEB. So if you're eligible for any PEUC weeks, you'll use those up first. If the American Rescue Plan does pass through Congress, then that will essentially make it so that no one would be eligible for SEB until August, because that additional 24 new weeks of PEUC would have to be used up first before anyone could move on to SEB. However, SEB does come before PUA for people on the standard UI track. So if we were to turn that back on, just as it was last year, you would go from PEUC, move on to SEB before you would be eligible to move on to PUA at that time.
Thanks, Daniel. We get another question in quite often, actually, around the FPUC benefit. Again, this is the additional $300 a week. What should someone do if they're missing an FPUC payment? Phil?
Yeah, at this point, as long as that is a week that you had already certified on your claim, you do not need to do anything. This is a known issue that we are working with our vendor that we are hoping to have resolved within the next few days or the next week or so, at which point in time we will catch up those weeks where you did not receive the FPUC to which you should have received it. A quick reminder, though, that $300 payment is only for weeks after December 27th. So it would be for weeks ending January 2nd, moving forward at this point in time.
Thanks, Phil. Can we go to a caller? Ken has a question about the pending extensions of benefits and some questions about his claim. Can we bring Ken on the line?
I'm here. Thank you.
Ken, you're live.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Yeah, the question was, if this gets passed before the new program, is it seamless? Does it just continue for the people that are receiving benefits now? Or the 300 would change to 400 if that goes through, and would they still be on? I mean, what's the process? Because I saw something conflicting. It wasn't certain which way it would go. I made myself clear.
Yeah, I can. This is Jeff. I can tackle that. So and we're talking about potential things that can happen, because when we're looking at new legislation that comes in, it's always a bit of a scramble, because we have to look at the actual details that come from the Department of Labor on how to get through some of those hurdles, especially when you've got one extension plan that rolls into another one. So if say Congress passes this one before the current Continued Assistance Act closes out on the 13th, what's likely to happen is that they will make any changes, like additional weeks that could be available, or the change to the federal pandemic unemployment compensation amount from 300 to 400. They most likely make that available starting on that next following week after the 13th. I would say that the eligibility, so if you're eligible for a new extension under the rules that are there, you'll become automatically available. You can continue to file if we get that in. If it's very complicated, it will, of course, take a little bit of time to make those adjustments. But the eligibility, like we've done with the Continued Assistance Act, would apply to any back weeks from that 13th through when those payments are available to be made. So in most cases, it's seamless as far as the eventual impact to you. So if it adds additional, if you're on PEUC and you've exhausted the end of that, but it adds additional weeks on there, you'd be eligible for those additional weeks. So it just really depends on what the final legislation says and what the impact is in getting that up and ready for everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sure.
So we get this question a lot, and we use the phrase and probably need to expand on its definition. What exactly does double dip mean? I think we touched on it briefly in terms of a fix that was underway, but does anyone want to speak to what double dip means from a UI claimant's perspective?
Sure, I can grab that one, Chair. Double dip is a concept related to regular state unemployment insurance claims. It's in place to ensure that you are not collecting off of the same employer twice without having returned to work in covered employment and earning a certain amount of money after you filed your initial claim on that first employer. So it refers to the employers and wages we use to calculate a claimant's weekly benefit amount. Once a claim expires and a new claim is filed, we look at a new base period to calculate a new weekly benefit amount. If an individual has not earned at least $2,000 in new wages since the start date of that expired claim, then the claimant would be charging that prior employer a second time without having gone to work, thus double dipping. So in this scenario, if somebody hasn't returned to work and earned $2,000 since filing that initial claim, they would not be eligible for benefits on the brand new unemployment insurance claim. So when a claim is filed, it's good for a full year before it expires. If a claim expires and the claimant is still unemployed, they are able to file a new claim. If the claimant has not earned at least $2,000 in new wages since the file date of the original claim, then the claimant has not met double dip and does not qualify to receive benefits on that claim until such time as they have earned $2,000.
Thanks, Phil. We'll be adding these FAQs to the UI Daily dashboard as well, just a note for everyone, as we mentioned. And we have just under 15 minutes left, so we'll get to a few more calls and questions before we wrap up. I saw one here, looks like a great question around work search and an individual who needs to amend their work search activity. And Andrea, do you see this question from a caller? on the work search question. See if we can find it here.
What's the name?
Well, it was Mark. No, it wasn't Mark. Let's see. Why don't we actually go to Rochelle? She has a question about payment holds. We did address this earlier. She is Rochelle from Grand Junction. Do we want to bring her on the line?
Hello.
Rochelle?
Hi, thank you. I fear maybe you might have answered while I was giving the question because I didn't hear the answer. In my case, I have an exhausted-active claim with still an available balance of over $1,200, and I've not gotten any payments since the end of December on the 26th, and it says that all my weeks are on, or that I have a payment hold, and it says yes. So I need to know how to get that payment hold released.
I'll send this to Phil or Jeff.
So I'm going to ask a quick follow-up question. This is Phil Rochelle. Have you looked under issues and determinations on your MyUI Plus account?
I've not. Every time I look, I've not seen anything pop up under that. I was hoping I would get, some further direction. So I went ahead and did the ID verification, thinking perhaps that was holding it up, and I've waited probably 8 or 10 hours on hold. I got one through once, but then I got disconnected, so I hadn't been able to get a clear answer.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like that it's an integrity hold on the claim. There is a known issue right now showing payment holds on some claims at this point in time, preventing payment, for which we're doing some work on that should clean those up. There are other reasons there may be payment holds on the claim, but generally it would be the integrity hold. There could be an active issue, but that would tend to say pending issue on your claim. But with your claimant ID, we can have somebody look at it, and if need be, try to contact you if there's something missing.
Oh, I would appreciate that so much.
And Rochelle, we have your claimant ID here, so look for that follow-up, and we appreciate your call and your participation.
Wonderful. Thank you guys for everything you're doing. You're doing such a great job. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rochelle. Best of luck to you. Let's go ahead and go to Charles. Charles had a question about work search. Can we bring Charles on the line?
Charles, you're live?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, and thank you for taking my question and hosting today's town hall. It's beneficial for us to obtain updates and to get answers to the questions as they relate to our individual situations. Prior to launching the MyUI Plus, I was approved for 2 work searches because I had 2 part-time jobs that were going to call me as soon as this thing was over. As a matter of fact, one of them has commenced surveying who will be back. The other is waiting to get talent on a television set where then they'll bring back the camera guys. So I'm 68 years old. These are 2 part-time jobs. How do I handle that? Because I think MyU was asking for 5, but I was approved for 2.
That's a great question, Charles. Thanks for joining today as well. So I'm going to send this one to Jeff.
Thank you.
Sure. So Charles, so you're talking prior to my guess is you probably worked with your local workforce center and they set you at 2 work search activities per week.
Yes, that's correct.
So as part of moving to that new system, like I had said earlier when we talked about work search, we had made some adjustments with our regulations to open things up so that it wasn't it used to be very specific that you had to make 2 job contacts per week. And that's why in some local areas, depending on your circumstances, they would reduce that to where you had to actually apply or attempt to get 2 different jobs per week. And we wanted to open that up because things are a little bit more dynamic now with the workplace. So there's a lot more you can do. And what we found was that it's much more beneficial to have work search activities, which covers a broad range of things. And so when we moved to the new system, we removed that word "you are required to make 2 work searches per week" to "we recommend that you make 5 work search activities per week." So if your local workforce center is still recommending that you do 2 per week just based on your own personal situation, you can enter 2 per week, and it will still take that and allow you to go through.
Oh, okay. Okay, I understand. And I understand what you mean by, the hard employer contact versus work search activities. I understand that as well.
Yeah, it's much more broad. There are a lot more activities. What we want people to do is make sure that they're doing an active search for work, and there's several different things that you can do. And in some weeks, you may not be able to contact 5 employers within a week. They may not have them available, especially if your industry is impacted and there may not be as many jobs for you to specifically apply for. So what we want you to do is work search activities. If your workforce center recommends that you do 2 per week, and you can only do 2 per week, as long as you are making that active work search, enter those 2 that are there. If you can do more than that, great. We recommend 5. But as long as you are making your active work search and logging that weekly, you should be good to go.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate the clear answer. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Charles. Best of luck. On the topic of looking for work, returning to work, I wanted to see if someone wants to take this question through one of the social media groups. The question is, how do my earnings impact my weekly benefit amount? This seems a very timely question, given that we're seeing folks return to work. Phil, do you want to take this one?
Sure, it's actually extremely timely. We've also seen a lot of people who now aren't necessarily fully unemployed, but they're partially unemployed as things tend to open up a little bit here. So you may be eligible, if you are working part-time, to be able to collect partial benefits so long as you are working fewer than 32 hours per week. However, you must continue to look for work and meet your eligibility requirements. When you work, we pay part of your weekly benefits. In other words, you can receive a partial unemployment benefit, but you have to have earned less than the weekly benefit amount on your unemployment insurance claim. Current law states there was an adjustment made in the last legislative session that you can earn up to 50% of your weekly benefit amount now and still be paid your full unemployment benefit. After that, we reduce dollar for dollar until you earn the same as your weekly benefit amount, and then you receive 0. Prior to that law change, which is temporary in nature, it was 25%. The brand new system is calculating based on the 50% allowed before it starts reducing on your claim.
Thanks, Phil. I'm wondering if we can we talk to Connie in Greeley? She was a PEUC claimant. Seems like she's got a number of things happening that might be able to be useful for other claimants. Can we bring Connie on the line?
Hello.
You're live.
Thank you all. I'm glad that you guys had this answering questions situation. Anyhow, I'm going to try to make this very brief. As of December 27th, I was a PEUC claimant, and I had over $1,000 balance on my claim. Then when the system upgrade integration took place, somehow an error, it switched me to standard UI, put me at a 0 balance, placed me inactive, and on the left side in the drop-down, it did not have the reopen. I have been calling every week since December 27th, spoken with the representative, been told different things. So anyway, as of December 26th, after coming out of Connecting Colorado, speaking with someone there, and also at the same day speaking on your hotline, they allowed the drop-down to have the reopen section. I was elated. I went in, did the reopen, answered the questions. Then all of a sudden I had noticed they populated $20,532 as an overpayment. Down below where you certify, it has 1 week in there from December 20th to 26th, which I already certified for. I've already been paid my benefits on. Therefore, that week is inaccurate and needs to be moved forward. However, I still don't even have access to try to certify because I thought, well, I will attempt to do that. I'll pass that week by and then move forward to each week after. But I can't do that. So currently, now my claim does say active. It was reopened. There is no hold on there, but it does say there's an overpayment of $20,532, which is an exuberant amount, which is completely impossible. And I don't know what to do as we're entering March. This will be going into the 10th week with no benefits, being told that it's been escalated, being told that I should fall into phase 1, being told that I should flow right into phase 2, and to date, nothing.
Well, Connie, first of all, I'm sorry for your frustration, and I'm going to turn this over to Daniel, but firstly, it does seem like you were just unfortunately encountering a number of issues within the system that maybe we have some defects in the works, but I'm going to turn it over to Daniel to see if he can shed some light here. Daniel?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Connie, based on what you were saying early on, in that when you left the old system, you were on PUC, you had a balance. Then when you came onto the new system, it showed a standard UI with no balance. That shows me that you're in one of our issue categories. The one I spoke to a little bit earlier. I know we've got it labeled differently for you, but it's those that have had an issue that's been determined on their claim, and then their balance disappears and their PUC drops off, goes to inactive. On the monetary, I want to assure you that that's getting resolved this week. So we will, once that does get resolved, I want to follow up with you directly on your claim and make sure we sort out everything, including that overpayment. I suspect that that's contributing to that in a pretty big way. So we'll work with you on that and make sure that we follow up once that issue is resolved on our side so that we can get your claim back up and running.
Okay, so in other words, after the OP section has been resolved through the IT system, then I should get some sort of correspondence that they are moving forward on my claim, because as I mentioned, mine falls into every aspect that they have stated has, been in error through the system upgrade. It seems like my particular claim has hit every single point. It's not just one area. And then once one issue does get resolved, which was the only one to be able to reopen, nothing else seems to work. So yes, I would just absolutely love for somebody to please stay connected with me. Please do some follow-up with me and help me through this.
And Connie, I definitely agree. It looks like you're hitting a number of them, but I suspect, as I mentioned, that that this is one issue that's presenting itself in a number of different ways on your claim. So I think we'll get there this week, and we'll be in touch with you on that.
And we did grab her claimant ID, so we'll be assigning that for follow-up. Well, I think we're at the end of the town hall. I want to thank our team for joining and answering some questions, and those of you who participated. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. There are thousands of you participating in today's town hall. We wish we could talk to each of you individually. As Jeff said, we're continuing to add staff to the call center and exploring new ways to actually even perhaps take inbound calls, and some of those will be in pilot phases. So we're really trying to get claimants this critical information on their claims when we know it's a frustrating time, and so we don't want to add additional frustration with confusing directions or lack of information. And that's where the daily dashboard comes in. So again, the daily dashboard is at coloradoui.gov. The issues that we addressed in the PowerPoint and on the calls, please feel free to check that page on a regular basis. I think we updated it twice today, and it provides you with a quick glance of issues in a red, yellow, green status. Again, we hope you found this forum useful. Wish you best of luck. We will continue to commit to trying to improve operations so we can get you the critical information you need to help you through this period. So thanks again, everyone. This recording will be shared out through email and on the CDLE website. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.